Hi guys, my name is Rolando. I've been with the company for over 2 years now. I have a little bit more experience than a lot of you guys coming in, but this will help everybody in general. It's more of a breakdown for the Netradyne, which is, or the Netradyne driver eye, which is a camera system that you'll see in the front or the top part of the front windshield. And we'll go over what it is and certain metrics that are looked out for. Now, of course, this is my opinion, solely my opinion. If you have any questions, clarifications, please reach out to dispatch or Henry, if anything, because the data and information may change tomorrow or next week. So hopefully this does not get outdated to help you guys as far as understanding what it is. Now, as we proceed, basically Netradyne is two parts to it. The basic portion of it is if you were to get into an accident, if something happens with the customer's property, or if you're being chased by dogs in front of the camera, all this gives the company a heads up to let them know you're not at fault. Now, if you are at fault, of course, let dispatch know what's going on so it can get fixed right away. Now, if you're not at fault, again, let dispatch know. They'll be able to pull up the video that's on there. And the way they're able to pull up the video that's on there is because it's an always on camera system. So whether the ignition's on, the ignition's off, it's always completely on. So anything that you do in the back cabin, anything you do in the front, such as reaching for the radio, or anything that you do is recorded. Now, these events, some of them are triggered and sent to dispatch, sent to Henry as well, so they can pull it up and see what's going on. And it's always a teachable and coaching moment, just in case. Now, beyond that, they would have to request any type of footage. Now, that's up to their discretion. The other side of it is the safety side of it. A lot of it has to do with hard braking, hard acceleration, hard cornering, basically anything that is, as far as body language and your reaction with the vehicle, is recorded, and that's where our metrics come in. Now, in essence, I'm showing about 12 topics that are the main ones. The first one we're going to go over is minutes analyzed, then green minutes percentage, driver score, sign violations, traffic light violations, hard braking, and so on. Now I'm going to go ahead and briefly describe them as far as what I think it is or how I feel it is. Of course, once again, it may be different as far as other people's explanations rather. Now, when you look at the column on the sheet that is produced every day, that shows your name and your score. The minutes analyzed are the total minutes that the Netradyne or the camera system was online and recorded your progress. So you're going to see different people with different minutes. There's a lot of times where there's some gaps that does not record, which is what I've experienced in time. But overall, a grand majority of your route, it's going to be recording that. Now, of course, the more you drive, the more minutes the system will analyze your driving and record your stats. Now, the next topic of hand is green minutes percentage. That's the amount of time that your progress has no negative or red impacts to your overall score within your daily route, which is the start of the shift till the end of the shift. Now, we do aim for 100% in green, but we also understand that the world around us isn't perfect. Meaning there's people that cut you off, sometimes the person in front of you hard brakes, things of that nature will affect it. However, it's unavoidable. As long as you don't get into a crash, you brake appropriately, you know what's surrounding you, and with that in mind, your green minutes percentage will be higher. Now, going on, your driver score is anywhere up to 1,050, which is the highest amount. It's 100% accurate. Nothing happened during that day. But of course, the driver score is a calculation of all analyzed events that are put together. Now these events can be positive or negative, but it allows us, or dispatch and Henry, to determine if we are driving safely or not during our shift. Of course, they use that data, they let us know what's going on, but we can also see it on the paper or the how they display it to us. We can look at if we had a heartbreaking event, if anything happened, then we can go ahead and get back with them and say, hey, how do I fix this? Or self-fix it as we go. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the max driver score currently that I'm aware of is 1050 to 1050. That's a perfect score. It is hard to achieve, but it is achievable. Now, what Henry and dispatch are looking for is a score of 1000 minimum. Now, of course, from what I gather, anything below that will be looked at by dispatch, and of course, they will reach out to the driver and basically see what went wrong. Again, it's a coachable moment. They want to figure out what happened on the road to be able to fix that. And just like mentioned, I'll continuously mention it. It's all for our safety out there. We're the drivers going out there to make sure we deliver all packages. So, that score is a little heads up of what's going on. Now, sign violations. Sign violations in common happen to stop signs. A lot of us tend to do what's called a rolling stop. We look at the stop sign, we're not fully stopped. The van is still going, even at a small pace, the camera will assume we're still rolling. So you have to come to a full stop. Of course, with that in mind, you look left for oncoming cars, you look right, and you look left again just to make sure everything's clear before proceeding. Now, that's the most common that I've seen. There are other sign violations that are potential, for example, yield signs. So my recommendation is treat that as a stop sign, especially if the stop light next to it is red. Come to a complete stop. Don't make it a habit, or don't try to drive off quickly just to shave off a few seconds. You just never know when another vehicle is going to come through, and that'll become a hazard overall. Now, the best practice is, if it looks like a stop sign, then it's probably a stop sign. There's some stop signs that you'll come to where it's broken, the edges are torn. Maybe the stop sign has the actual, there's no image whatsoever, there's no red, doesn't say stop, but the actual, I guess the metal part of it is still available. So if it looks like a stop sign, it is a stop sign. Treat it like it. Now, a lot of questions came to the point of, if you were to stop right after the stop sign, will they consider a sign violation? Now, this one's picky, because depending on how far you go beyond it, it may trigger the event. However, always come to a stop. You see a stop sign, whether you stop just a little bit ahead, right before it, or on it, always come to a complete stop. And of course, look left, look right, look left again. Now, the next one is traffic light violations. This one is basically when you run a red light. That's the most common, if anything, that it'll trigger. However, even with a yellow light to a red light, it's possible that it can trigger as well. Now, that's very simple. Like I mentioned here, this can be when a yellow light is shown and you speed up to pass an intersection, or when it's a full red and you drive past it anyways. Now, of course, doing this will put you in a severe risk of a vehicle crash or pulled over by a police officer. Obviously, don't risk it, wait it out. If anything were to happen to that, I would advise to go with dispatch or Henry and say, hey, I accidentally did this. I just wanted to report that ahead of time. Don't make it a habit. Better yet, don't do it. If you see yellow, start stopping. Don't speed up. Now, heartbreaking, in a nutshell, is a drastic decrease in speed. Sometimes you see you're in a, let's say, a roadway that's already too small. There's cars parked to the right, parked to the left, and then you see a car ahead trying to get through. but you see it right when you think it's, let's say you're about to go in there, but then you see the car coming, so you're going to hard brake. You're going to make sure that you guys don't hit each other, basically. With that in mind, let's say if you're going 10 miles per hour and then all of a sudden you're at 0 miles per hour. At that point, you'll most likely trigger the event called hard braking. Now there's a lot of other occasions that it may happen, so it is a little nitpicky, but the most common is hard braking when it's unnecessary. That's always pay attention what's ahead of you, what's aside of you, and occasionally what's behind you as well, how far that vehicle is behind you. In most cases, or actually in all the branded vehicles, you should have a camera above you that you can see on the back side, and just to make sure that nothing else is around you in case you have to do that. Now, hard turning is whenever you're going too fast on a corner, which actually is hard turning and hard cornering. It's kind of the same thing, or at least it is to me. So say you're going too fast, you try to take a right, or there's a car right behind you and you don't want to get hit by it because you're about to turn. You know, even with your turn signal, a lot of people enjoy the fact of being right next to you. So you really don't want to be in an accident, so you try to speed up and move on to the right, or turn that into a road that you're supposed to go, right? Now, doing this will trigger that event. However, in the long run, I myself would rather get the points deducted from hard cornering than face the fact of I just had somebody hit me in the back. But in this occasion, no matter what, be safe and always put your light signals way ahead of time so the person behind you can realize it and go around you or slow down to allow you to go ahead and go into that street. Now, hard acceleration. This is whenever you know, it's the opposite of hard braking. It's a drastic change of speed going forward. Basically, when you put it on drive and then you just slam on the accelerator. Doing this won't do anything with the vehicle as far as speed is concerned. However, the acceleration alone will trigger the event. Do realize you're in a vehicle that weighs a lot, so getting to even 6 to 10 miles per hour, take it slow. You know, there's no need to speed, there's no need to try to get up to that speed, because overall the van won't do it. Now, driver distraction, there's a lot of ways that this can be triggered. Some of them can be reaching over to the radio, adjusting the volume, sometimes even fixing the air conditioning vent, or you know, changing the AC, whether it's too cold, too hot. Anything can trigger it, but the most common as far as driver distraction is phone distraction. So in another sense would be phone manipulation. Either one is basically the same thing. But whenever you reach for the phone or the driver eye sees a phone and you're looking at it, even for brief seconds at a time, it'll trigger the driver distraction. Now, in order to avoid anything of that sort, make sure that your eyes are on the road. If you have to reach down for a bottle of water or a quick drink, even at a stoplight, make sure not only as you're drinking to look forward, but also, you know, look to the left, look to the right. As long as the Netradyne driver eye sees that your eyes are paying attention to the road, you can still be drinking a bottle of water, especially at stop signs or stop lights. Those don't really trigger too much. But if you're drinking water and looking off to your right window or left window, not paying attention to what's in front of you, after a given certain time, it will trigger it. Now, following distance. This one is mainly for your protection as well as everybody around us. You don't want to follow too close to a vehicle in case they have to brake hard or something in front of them happens. Then you'll have enough distance to be able to brake or move out of the way, whichever situation is the safest way. So again, as you're following vehicles in front of you, make sure to look to your right or left, see if there's any vehicles that are wanting to get into your way. If so, slow down just a little bit so you can create a gap. Now, if anything, look at objects such as light poles ahead of you. Normally, as far as light pole, let's say if I see a light pole and that vehicle just passed me, I kind of time it where let's say 1, 2, 3 seconds. That's an okay timing, but the faster I'm going, let's say 60 miles per hour, I want to make sure that that other vehicle is already at that second light pole portion. So in case anything happens, I'll have plenty of time for it. Speeding violations, there's a big one. Overall, from what we found out as far as data goes, it's triggered whenever you are 10 miles per hour in those specific zones. So I put a little bit of data there, but normally as far as the expressway, it's between 60 and 65, depending on where you're at. Now, once you get into residential, it might be 10, maybe 15 miles per hour, so definitely be careful. Now, the way this can be triggered, and it happens a lot in expressways. Let's say there's an area that's 65. Let's say you're going 70 because it's only 5 miles above it. You're going 70, and all of a sudden the next area you don't realize it drops to 60. Now instead of going 5 miles per hour over, you're going 10 miles per hour over. Now that may or may or not trigger the event. However, even a little bit over that, it's going to trigger the event. So what I would recommend is always stay at miles per hour, no matter what. If there's somebody behind you, there's different lanes that go upon it. Another thing that's catching a lot of people is the exit ramps. The exit ramps, sometimes you go from 60, 65 miles per hour to 45. If you know you're exiting already, put on your blinker ahead of time and just start slowing down gradually. Now once you get into the exit ramp, start slowing down a little bit more. What I've noticed in my personal experience is as long as you're slowing down within a given amount of time, it won't trigger that event. Now if you're still going on a 45 exit ramp, you're still going let's say 55 miles per hour or 60 off that exit ramp, after a given time, no noticeable change in speed as far as decreasing it, it'll trigger that event. And that's where it's getting a lot of people. Seatbelt compliance, that's a no-brainer. Put on your seatbelt. There's a lot of people that have tried it. There's a lot of people that aren't with us anymore. You won't get away with it. It doesn't matter if the driver eye or the camera system detects it or not. There's other data that Henry and dispatch acquired that lets them know whether the seatbelt has been on or not. In general, make sure to wear it properly, and then once the engine is off, take it off, do what you need to do. Okay? Now, of course, as Henry always says, I can't match his enthusiasm in this case, but hopefully I got this right, Henry. Be safe, hydrate, take your break, take your meal. Got it? So Alamo 3, 1, 2, 3. Alamo!